Well, my first guest tonight is Maung Zarni. He's a Burmese academic and human rights activist based in London. He's also co-founder of the academic and activist network Forces of Renewal Southeast Asia. Welcome to DW. I understand you knew two of the condemned men. This must have come as a great shock.
Yeah, I felt a very piercing pain, for them as well as for their bereaved families. I knew them, met them briefly. They were my comrades. We don't have to be friends as long as we share the democratic values and pro-human rights mission. And so that's what they meant for me. And also, I knew that one of the last executed men back in 1976 when I was a kid, he plotted a coup or assassination attempt as a military officer, and he paid with his life. And so this was something my parents felt when I was growing up, that their classmate and friend was executed. Now I am feeling or going through what they must have gone through, like such tremendous pain that good men were persecuted by this genocidal regime.
And as we understand it, these were the first executions in Myanmar since 1988. So what do you think has changed that means that this government, this time, will go to these extremes?
Well, the contrary to the public perception that the regime is invincible, they are frightened for their lives because they are confronted with the unprecedented society-wide opposition, including widespread armed resistance. Virtually every community has armed a militia or resistance unit called People's Defense Forces, and they are working in collaboration with the several major ethnic resistance organizations that control their own territory. So I think that the extent to which this regime would go to terrorize the population has to be understood at how frightened this regime is. And so I think this is something that needs to be understood. Secondly, I think, people say this is a turning point. For instance, Tom Andrews, the UN Special Rapporteur on the human rights situation in Myanmar, said that this is a turning point. No, I disagree. I think the turning point should have been when this regime was found to have committed a full-scale genocide back in 2017 against the Rohingya Muslims. And so when the international community allows this regime to continue on as business as usual, this is what has led to 5 years after the regime is at war.
Let's talk about the response of the international community, because the news of these executions has brought expressions of outrage and condemnations from governments around the world. But clearly, I get the impression that you believe that's just not enough.
Not only are the condemnations not enough, I would hold the international community as such, accountable for the execution, or at least that they are culpable or complicit, because, the words are empty. Because if you look at the Ukraine situation since April, the pro-human rights Western governments have imposed or taken measures, waves after waves, to cripple the Putin's regime. And the Burmese military has been violating every single humanitarian and international law and treaties, including the Genocide Convention. And the West has practically sat on its hand. And, I think that needs to be reviewed. And we cannot let this regime to enjoy international community. And on the regime's part, it enjoys the double veto by Russia and China. And so it's a difficult situation, but there are measures that need to be done. Like, for instance, like freezing the regime assets and financial access to the international community, like the U.S. has and European Union have done towards or against Putin's regime. That's
just
just
on
one
that,
example.
let me just interrupt you there, just because of course, when you look around the world, the US, the UK have imposed sanctions. There are UN sanctions. So they have matched the harsh words with some action, but you still believe that's insufficient?
No. They have not matched, the harsh words with the real actions. Yes, they have done things that allow them to feel that they have done something. The Burmese diplomatic missions around the world are operating full-scale, on full scale across the European Union country. The Burmese military has been allowed to access its international accounts. What the US and UK have done is single out, a dozen or so top leaders, but as a system that allows these the top generals to commit a long series of atrocities, and not just execution of 4 dissidents, but genocide and crimes against humanity, and in many cases war crimes. The West has allowed this system to continue to operate. Australia is sitting with the Burmese Defense Ministry officials at different meetings, and so has Japan. And so I think the system needs to be targeted, not just a few bad apples at the top,
but the whole organisation. Thank you so much for explaining that so clearly. Maung Zarni in London.
Thank you.